Hey guys. So today I wanted to really talk about how Phase 4 of about really how the future of Marvel is pretty much done, and how who and really why that is, and how people are basically over exaggerating on the fact that Avengers Endgame finally beat Avatar. So first, I'm gonna start off with Phase 4 and why it doesn't look very good. So first, we have the first movie we have coming out is Black Widow. Now, this seems like wasted, of a movie because everyone wanted to see this back in from what I can date is in Iron Man 2 when she was first introduced. But now with the fact that she's dead, this really just feels like an anime where they would have like a filler episode. It wouldn't be very crucial to the plot, kind of like with the Ant Man movies to me, except for that where they had like that one bit in Ant Man and the Wasp. But other than that, but yeah, like really, Black Widow kind of seems like a movie that's a filler episode, and because like I said, she's dead, and even though if this is a origin, like I said, she's dead, like really what's the point of this movie? Because it seems like a cash grab to me. Then we have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show. Like it seems like that's going to be like kind of semi interesting. Like what I mean by that is when he like for Captain Falcon, it's going to be interesting for him because it's going to be like a character development. But for Winter Soldier, it seems like it's not going to be very interesting to me. But that's really for like if I'll have to watch the first episode to judge that. So when it comes out, so yeah. Then we have the Eternals. Like, like to me, it seems like like from what it's described as, it seems like a response to DC's New Gods movie that's coming out because basically from what I've read about the Eternals is that it's basically like a copy of DC's New Gods, like these godlike beings in a so basically like a movie about these godlike beings in a movie slash comic, and it seems like there was no hype to this at all until San Diego Comic Con, where they just explained that this is going that it really in Comic Con they just explained from what I've heard that this is the most diverse cast, whatever on that. Then we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, I am a huge martial arts fan, and it really, like I said, I'm a huge martial arts fan, but the concept of having the Mandarin return seems to me like a kind of like a apologize movie for Iron Man 3, where basically the Mandarin wasn't the Mandarin, and it seems like unless the Mandarin does actually survive this time, it seems like it's still going to be a apologetic movie when really all Marvel needed to do was actually follow the actual comics instead of doing their own thing with the Mandarin. So really, this is just a apologetic movie, and also with how Marvel's CG has been, it seems like I'm really hoping, basically for saying Shang-Chi, I'm hoping that this is a very serious movie because like this whole mold about comedy being in the Marvel movies is starting to be very forced and formulaic, especially in Endgame, and I'll get to that point later at the end of down the line. But yeah, like really, I just don't like the comedy of the MCU because of the fact that it's very formulaic, and you know how that affected The Last Jedi. So, moving on to Wanda and Vision. This is a miss for me because it seems like this is going to be a rom com, and really, even if Vision does, and really, we're in this predicament where we don't know who's alive and who's dead. So to me, when I hear Wanda and Vision now, with I can either like if they do bring Vision back, that from the MCU Prime, I'm gonna say from the Infinity Saga, if they do bring him back, then that basically retcons everything that about all of the everything about like how everyone died, even though they kind of did that before, but whatever. And also for if they do this where this is where Vision is still dead, or they made a new Vision, it's like, how could that be if, like, how could you just continue the arc, the romance arc with Wanda and Vision? And like I said, with the comedy thing, it seems like Wanda and Vision is going to be a rom com, and I don't really know anyone who is a fan of rom coms, and really with how bad the and the Marvel Cinematic Universe's quality has been with comedy, it just isn't very good. Like it's just horrible and forced at this point. Now, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I actually do have no problems with this. It actually does sound like a very interesting movie, but at the same time, it's like if it, if you do bring the multiverse thing, that kind of does contradict the whole time travel thing in Endgame, which I don't care what anyone says. The way they explained the time travel does sound like dimensional travel. Like, if you actually do listen to what the Hulk says, it actually does sound a lot more like dimensional travel. For me, it's like it, it confuses the whole concept of time travel. quote unquote. And then we have Loki. From what it seems like, it's going to be focusing on what happened in Endgame with with the whole Tesseract time travel incident where Loki and comes back, who is in another dimension where he actually does take over the world, and there's that word again, dimensional. That also is gonna be coming back up soon. I'm actually building up towards that. And then What If, which I heard is going to be a animated series about what if stories. And really, we all know, if you don't know really the history on Marvel animation, it is not a good track record at all. Like, to me, this is just a, like, if this turns out to be canon and stuff like that, does that mean that is it for the what if stories they're going to be coming up animated or something? Because this seems like something that, because this to me seems like Black Widow, another filler episode to me. And then, because like I said, this show in the long run does seem to have add a lot of complications to the MCU. And then we have Hawkeye. This is actually the only thing I am actually very interested in seeing, because to me Hawkeye is the most underrated character in the MCU, because if you really think about it with him, because I'm pretty much like very interested with seeing who the Avengers side with through Hawkeye's point of view, and he actually does have a lot of potential to be a great character. And then we have Thor and Love and Thunder. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole Natalie Portman thing, but actually, you know what? Like, to me, this feels like another love rom com thing, because this also contradicts like Thor: The Dark World, they left where they left, and then kind of like it's kind of like Pepper Potts, where she did show up, but at the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, but in a way they actually did seem to make a logical sense. But for Thor: The Dark World, I really don't understand that, because here's the thing: if you go back into the if you go to the first post-credit scene of Thor: The Dark World, they actually went through this whole storyline with Natalie Portman leaving Thor. I forgot what her character's name is, but basically Natalie Portman leaves Thor, and then at the end of the first post-credit scene, we see Thor with someone that actually was confirmed to not to be Natalie Portman, but completely someone else. And then with how we you go into now, where all of a sudden they're actually teasing her with her wielding Mjolnir, and it's like how did you go from a breakup to and then jump to like who knows how many years at this point with the MCU timeline? I'm actually confused at this point. But yeah, how do you go from a breakup to potential years? Then you go to what they seem to be teasing, um, Natalie Portman wielding Mjolnir here and potentially being the next Thor. Like that's very convoluted to me because it's like I said, very confusing. Like how do you go from breakup to you're back together and then you're potentially Thor? Then we go into who the Fantastic Four is like. If this takes a place in MCU Prime, in the Infinity Saga, then how come we didn't find out about them before or even get hints about them? And I know that there's some theories about Tony Hawk, Tony Stark's snap uh, having to do with giving people superpowers, but that still doesn't make sense because all Tony's snap did was snap everyone out, all of Thanos' army away, and also with Hulk, all he did was bring people back to life, and and really that is like I said, the whole snap thing that created the superpowers thing doesn't make any sense. But if they did a Fantastic Four alternate dimension or timeline, as they might say, it doesn't make any sense because like if there was like something else that happened, then how come they'll have to explain like why is the Fantastic Four and going getting a movie now and all that stuff. And then we go to Blade, which is confirmed to be a non MCU thing. Like if I like Herschel Ali, like I really do, but the but it really it's like how did a vampire like a vampire fighting other vampires story not go through everyone? Like for Doctor Strange, they explained it very well because they aren't like they are actually very secretive. They actually did explain that, but how did you they not hear at least stories of vampires? Like that's the thing that contradicts it. And then we go into Avengers Endgame beating Avatar. Everyone is making a big deal out of this, like, oh, uh, Avengers Endgame beat Avatar finally. Ooh. But then where I come in is like, okay, they beat Avatar. Now what? Like, because to me, it's like this. I think about the long run of things. Like, how I see it is, yeah, you beat Avatar, but another movie is going to beat you down the road, like, let's say about 10 years or so. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But yeah, like you beat Avatar. Now, Kevin Feige, what do you do next? Like, cause you see, like he seems to be overconfident at this point. Like, I actually want to know down in the comments, like overall of the lineup of Phase 4, how many people are going to actually see all of these things in the long run, and then go to Phase 5 and 6? Because this lineup right here doesn't really look like their best, even on paper, compared to all of the others. And because to me, like, and really, I'm going to another thing where where AEW superstar Chris Jericho said in a podcast that the WWE is the Disney of wrestling. And in the long run, I gotta say that he's actually correct on that, because right now he both here's really the thing that they have. Here's the two things that they have in common. Like, they're both very confident in their prowess, which, if you watch WWE, it's not doing too good. It is not doing too good. And then you have both of them focusing on comedy, which also isn't doing too good for both of them. And then you go into this Phase 4 lineup and the current WWE product. It is not that good. Like, both of them are looking not that good to their old stuff. Like, think about it. Like I said, put down in the comments. Do you really think that you want to see Black Widow? Do you really think you're going to see Black Widow, Wanda and Vision, Loki, and the What If series that's going down? And do you really think that you are going to see Thor: Love and Thunder? Because I really don't think that's really, because really in the long run, I don't see those as good things. Like, I don't even see Marvel The Eternals doing good in the box office. And then, like, it seems to me also that one that this whole, like I said, they will, like, Kevin, I'm actually going to call this out right now. People will get tired of these movies, and if you don't change the formula. Like, here's the thing with, like, I'm actually gonna go into this right now, actually. Like, I'm gonna compare Zack Snyder's DCEU to the MCU as a whole. You have been doing comedy for the longest time and the same formula, except for Winter Soldier and Infinity War, partially. Now, who now for DC, for Zack Snyder, he actually was actually paying attention to the comics, where he actually did make his characters like actual characters and not toys, basically. Like, he would actually feel for Superman like he was actually Superman. Then you go to then, and you would actually make tough choices that wouldn't actually happen. Then you go into Batman versus Superman, where you have this Batman who has been Bruce Wayne, who's been Batman for 20 years, who's actually seen a lot of stuff. And this is actually what I expected from Captain America. He actually he has seen a lot of stuff and is not and he's been doing and basically Batman has been doing this whole no killing rule for the longest time, and then eventually he goes into this he he actually does say, you know what, screw it. I've been doing this for the longest time and nothing has changed. I'm going to if they end up dead, then they end up dead, which actually does for the people who do say Zack Snyder doesn't understand comics. He That's right out of the Frank Miller's The Dark Knight. Like he's actually old and he killing he's actually killing people. And and even in the and even if you say, "Oh, that's Frank Miller, that's only one comic." In the Golden Age, Batman is wielding guns. If you actually look into his first few years, Batman he is portrayed as wielding dual pistols and machine guns, and really that's right out of the comics. Another thing that Zack Snyder does understand. And then we go into Lex Luthor. That's now I do understand that's actually complicated, but here's the thing: we in this comic called Superman Birthright, which he actually did mention in a interview about reading that comic. Lex Luthor, Je- Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor is actually portrayed correctly. Like in Superman Birthright, he is portrayed as a young man with hair and is portrayed as quote too he's too smart. He wants to and he's not really a bad guy. He wants to kill Superman because of the potential threat that he is, which is also right out of Superman Birthright. And less and you cannot tell me that if and and in fact he was Zack Snyder was actually what was supposed to happen was Bryan Cranston was actually supposed to be playing as Lex Luthor, but he said that he didn't want to do that because the comic book fans have already seen that. You've already seen the old grizzled Lex Luthor who has been killing who has been wanting to end Superman for real estate. Like that's already been betrayed for years and decades now. But he wanted to make this new, fresh, modernized version of Lex Luthor where he actually doesn't want to kill Superman for who to basically control real estate. Like he actually wants to kill Superman for a valid reason. And he even hinted at his Lex's origin where he was abused by his dad and and killed his parents, which actually did happen in the comics. Again, Zack Snyder knowing about comics. Then we go into the Soul Snyder Cut thing, where I'm not going to spoil a whole lot because of the potential that it actually might be coming out soon. But let me just say, from what I've heard, a lot of stuff in the comics are connected to it. And yeah, like, here's the thing, really. Like, my whole thing is, he's like Zack Snyder, he went for a completely different approach because he didn't want to be like the Marvel movies. He wanted the DCEU to be unique throughout the whole time so that people don't compare it, even though that actually happened anyway. But yeah, and he wanted it to be completely different to the MCU that Kevin Feige has been doing. But now, but yeah, like now it seems like everyone is treating the MCU like it's this entity that cannot die. But really, like, it's a very but really it's like very formulaic. Like, at this point, like, now we go, you know what, let's move on to Avengers Endgame. Like, this is really the whole meat of the situation. They didn't need to name the title Avengers Endgame because that's really it. Like, it's the end game. There's not going to be any more. There's not going to be any more conflicts. That's it. That's what it's. That's what the end game is supposed to mean. Like, that's it. But then you go into phase 4, 5, and 6, and it makes Endgame irrelevant. Like, it makes Endgame irrelevant. Like, if they said the finale, like if they kept Infinity War Part Two, I wouldn't have thought of this. But the fact that it's the end game, meaning that there's not going to be any more Marvel movies, and then you just straight up lie by saying we're going to do 3 more phases, that downgrades Marvel and really Endgame as a whole. And I even had this conversation with Christian Miracle about it, where he's a huge Marvel fan, and it said that the and basically said that the end game was of the Infinity Saga. And I basically went and said, so you're right, it's the end game, it's the finale of the Infinity Saga. But the fact that it was called Endgame, like, what does that mean? Like, every phase of Avengers is every end phase of Avengers is going to be what, Avengers Endgame 2, 3, and 4. Like, to me, like, see how dumb that sounds? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, you say that it's the end game, like this is it. No more, hey, no more Marvel. No, like, this is it. This is the big bad. This is the big finale. But then you go in to how, and then you pull a Cartoon Network original Teen Titans on us, and then it's like you make another 3 seasons, and then you leave us with this cliffhanger that isn't really resolved. Like, you see how dumb that sounds? Like, come on. Like, that is just really, really dumb to me. Like, you straight up lied to your audience, cause in Teen Titans, the I think it was like when in Teen Titans the animated show, they were the final 2 seasons when they were facing Trigon were titled The End Part 1 and Part 2. And then what happened is Cartoon Network said, "Oh, you're go for another season." Then Cartoon Network had to come in. Then Warner Brothers had to come in and leave us on the cliffhanger, and really left us hanging with that until at least when Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go comes out. Like, you see what I mean about this? Like, this is like really, like, I think Endgame was the quote beginning of is the quote the beginning of the end of the MCU. Like, it, like, in a bad, and I'm meaning as in a bad way, cause I'm not, cause really this whole thing is just very messed up to me, and it seems like it's going to be like very bad for all the Marvel fans and comic book fans. Cause here's the thing, like, I'm a huge fan of Marvel, but I'm not a huge fan. But I'm not a fan of the MCU because in the comics they were actually very complex with it, and really I just want to leave something with this for you guys to say. Like, I wanted to tell you guys this. It is confirmed by the Russos that Captain America Civil War wasn't going Captain America 3 wasn't going to be Civil War. It was actually going to be completely different. And this was actually confirmed by the Russo brothers, where they actually said we had something completely different planned for Captain America 3. But then when Batman vs. Superman was announced, Kevin Feige told us to, quote, change plans and do Civil War. So, for all the Marvel fans that say, oh, Civil War was planned from the beginning, no, it wasn't. Like, it was to counter the announcement of the Batman vs. Superman. So, think it really about that, about next time you say that the MCU is the best and it can't be beat. So yeah, this is Jeffrey signing off, and the really type in the comments on really what do you think, because I'll be reading them and seeing if I to see your points of view on it. So see you soon, soldiers.